Welcome back, and we're continuing talking about the dry seasons. So, when it comes to these dry seasons and dry places, sometimes it can be exacerbated due to the fact that the enemy is sending storms in through witchcraft. There are certain things, high satanic days that are happening in the midst of high holy days, and there is confusion being put into the atmosphere in dreams through spell work that's being done, all kinds of stuff. um Stephanie P just did 4 videos yesterday on her page talking about separation spells and things that are being done in the spirit realm in order to deter and to cause confusion in the atmosphere. And when I was looking at one of the videos, I actually had to think back to something that I did out of frustration in relation to my God ordained spouse. And I was like, oh man, that might have actually have been one of these spells working. You got to be cautious on all levels. And I found myself feeling depressed a little bit about it because I'm like, is this going to happen every single time? I mean, every single time. And the fact of the matter is that if I could spiritually jump like that, is this going to delay me in meeting my God ordained spouse because I'm so easily triggered in the spirit? Because the warfare gonna come. Now there may be a season of rest, but the warfare does come and you have to be prepared. The Lord will isolate you and your spouse in a spiritual covering from the storms in order for you to gauge each other spiritually, but there's going to be moments that you have to be prepared for that. But my point being is you have to be prepared for the tactics of the enemy. She was making a point of talking about Ruiz. I forget what his name. He was a powerful satanic warlock, and he talked about things that he would do, like putting people's names, personalities, essences, all this kind of stuff into a coffin, surrounding it with black candles for 21 days while praying over it. And that should have killed the person. And he's got things like cancer and all this kind of stuff written down on these papers with sacrificial pig's blood or blood of chickens or whatever it is. And it was supposed to kill him. So these enemies don't come at you. And even he said it. He said, yeah, the Satanists that follow Satan pray harder than the Christians that follow Christ. They're in their sacred cultic meetings way more than a Christian is in church. And Christians running around here wondering why their lives are being flipped upside down because they are not as spiritually hungry and tenacious for these things as the enemy is out for your blood. So you can be going around in circles because the enemy keeps bringing up demonic delay and doing all this kinds of stuff. I already told you about the time that I fell on that escalator, but I was pre-warned that something was going to happen within a few hours of me falling. But you have to take heed to the wisdom that is given to you. Some wisdom you will spiritually get the understanding. I should probably not do this. But sometimes the Lord will send somebody, you should probably not do that anymore. You should do this. And if you forget, then the outcome, God can protect you. God gives you grace. God makes sure you don't die. But you could have avoided that injury had you been more spiritually aware and discerning. just like this young woman was with her gas. Had she filled up her gas tank, she wouldn't have had to worry about what she went through. She sat there for 5 days, so close to her destination, so close to the ranch, but she didn't know. Knowledge can make the difference between a breakthrough and being or staying stuck. How do you gain knowledge? Fast. How do you gain knowledge? Fast. How do you gain knowledge? Fast. When you fast for clarity, you fast for wisdom, you fast, you pray, you stand in the gap, you do all of this type of stuff, you cover the areas and situations in which you are seeing conflict and confusion. Things will change because you will get the clarity and the direction that you were looking for. But you have to move your feet in that direction. God will put you in darkness in order to give you wisdom and knowledge you would never have gained had you not been pulled into darkness. For 5 days, she was stuck there. God puts you in a pit, puts you in dark places, puts you in dry places, wilderness places, in order to test you, in order to give you discernment. Somebody recently did a teaching where they talked about the dry places and the dark places that God will isolate you in order to prepare you. It was a part of a teaching, but I cannot think of who did it. And it was like, oh, it might have been just Emily. She was reading a passage in the book of Revelations, I believe it was, talking about those dry places. Or the isolation part of those dry places. And I cannot think what that was. But if you've never had to deal with it, but God will put you in these dark places in order for you to gain the wisdom and knowledge that you would never have gained otherwise. And you are being put into darkness for that period of time, for that you are stuck there. She used her phone in order to record messages, revelations, thoughts, and fears. God will put you in these seasons of isolation in order for you to pick up and gain the revelations, which will later become these articles that I was going through, the dry season I was going through over 5 years ago. Look at what I'm doing now. I'm teaching them these revelations, these messages. This young woman was put in